we've all been discussing your book on camera.
Yes, I've heard.
So, good, you should be pleased. So, Whoopi would like to
I just have a couple questions, actually. In your book, you devote an entire chapter to single mothers.
Yes.
And what happens to children raised in single-parent homes. You title the chapter, Victim of a Crime, Thank a Single Mother. What is your issue with single mothers? Because I know you don't have any kids. I mean, maybe you have stepkids. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. But, and before you answer, I just want to say, you said that single motherhood is like a farm team for future criminals and social outcasts. 70% of inmates in prisons come from single-parent homes. Hollywood actresses using single motherhood as a way to promote their careers, and it says, you say it's very selfish for a single mother to have a baby without a father. So I'm wondering.
Yeah, well, we now have 30 or 40 years of social science research. I mean, I'm just citing, this is, you know, dressed up numbers crunching. I'm just giving the numbers. 80% of the inmates in prisons were raised by single mothers. About 70% of the runaways of the child, juvenile delinquents, juvenile murderers, juvenile rapists, raised by single mothers. And the point is, this didn't happen by accident. The illegitimacy rate alone has gone up over 300% since 1970. And as I describe in my book, this was a specific plan by the left, attacking the nuclear family. The most famous example.
Go back to the. I know you want to. I'm sorry. I know you want to do this whole left thing because that's what you do. That's your act.
No,
but what I do want to know, because a lot of what you've cited in terms of this, just specifically this, is based on sort of not great research, because we've seen this research discounted time and time again. But why would you say Hollywood actresses using single mother? I take offense to that, of course, as you can understand, because having been a single mother, I don't think it was something I used as a tool.
The point is, well, I don't think you've done it in the last few years, and this is, it has become...
Are you talking about in the, I'm sorry, say this again? You talked about you're talking about actresses in the last few years.
Right, that's why I say it's the new thing, as opposed to the sex tapes.
Why don't you come down as hard on the fathers who aren't there, rather than the women who actually raised their children?
I'll answer that, because the title is Guilty Liberal Victims and Their Assault on America. And the point of the book is, in example after example, of how people play the victim, are exalted in this society, have doors open for them, when in fact they're the ones victimizing others. I've never heard anyone say, unsung heroes, unwed fathers. How does he do it? He has four children with 3 different mothers. How did he have the time to do that? You do have, as I describe in that chapter, Hollywood, mainstream media, the New York Times, women's magazines exalting single motherhood, movie after movie about single motherhood, book after book.
Are you married?
Sisters are doing it for themselves.
Are you married? Are you married?
No, but it wouldn't change the difference of the facts I cite.
Do you have kids?
No, and it wouldn't change the difference of the facts.
Well, it would if you had children. You know more what you were talking about.
Do you want children? Because I do realize that there are mothers who are divorced, and you don't blame them as much, and there are mothers who are widowed. But there are women who do want children. I'm not talking about the teenagers, the irresponsible and so forth, and need to be loved. We can perhaps, you know, go with it. But there are women who do want children.
Yeah, that's what I write about.
And single mothers.
And how selfish it is. That's precisely what...
And can take care of these children and give them happy homes or adopt these children.
Okay, no, I am not, and nor are the studies.
On all those things.
Absolutely not. You are wrong about that, and that is the interesting...
Kill anybody. That's all I'm saying.
No, it's, of course it's not every... The point is you look at it from the other end. You know, and when you look at the prison end, and no, it is not true that I'm leaving out race. There is, in fact, I cite a study by the Progressive Policy Institute, a liberal institute, saying that if you take single motherhood out of the equation, the black and white crime rates are exactly the same. So you take everything else out. Single motherhood is not good for children. That is a fact, and it is a fact that it is promoted.
I would like to ask you, because you know, there's some nuggets of truth that you have in stuff that you write, but I don't see any compassion that you have. Do you go out and do you talk to single young girls about trying not to, you know, to use birth control? Are you trying to be part of the solution,
well, sure,
as opposed to just judging and throwing out stuff?
Look, the more non-judgmental we have been about the mothers, the more real victims have been created.
Can I ask
millions and millions per year. I mean, it's not like this is some inevitable number that we must have of children being raised by single mothers every year. It wouldn't have gone up by more than 300% since 1970.
Let's move off that topic, because you call it liberal victims. You know, the biggest victim this week is your girlfriend, Sarah Palin. She is whining about everything. The media was wrong.
The media was horrible.
By the way, she has a child born out of wedlock.
The media attacked her daughter's unborn child.
She's
That was
acting like a
appalling.
victim now, and why is it just liberal to her victims? Give me a break.
No, but the point of the book is not to say that there aren't any victims. Of course, there are
Well, why
victims.
is it
That's my
liberal and
point.
victims put together
that
then?
Liberals play the victim while creating real victims. I'm not saying there's no such thing as victim, but can we get back to what you were attacking me for when I wasn't here?
Which
Oh, good to have black celebrities. Yeah.
See, now
I've never heard my book. Well,
No,
I just want to
follow
respond.
up on what we were saying about you're saying that
I would like the
they
right to
identify
respond.
with their black side, and we had something
you
to say.
seem
What
to
did you
think that I was trying to read people's minds, I believe someone said, or that I've had some personal experience with them. To the contrary, as I cite in the book, I am talking about things they have done and said. Barack Obama writes his first book, I think it was his first book, his autobiography, Dreams from My Father. He identifies with the father who abandoned him. He met one. I read the book.
He praises his mother off with it. Can I
The
just
point
move
isn't
on?
that
We
he
don't
doesn't
have that much time.
Wait, you guys attack me for it and I can't respond.
Can I
Halle
just say
Berry
nobody
accepts the
feels
Academy
that.
Award.
He felt-
Okay, just let me answer.
Barack Obama felt that
Halle Berry
Not
accepts
saying the truth. We are not attacking you.
I have
You
never
wrote
heard
something
my book
provocative.
read aloud like you're reading Mein
I'm
Kampf,
about to
and
read
I
it
just
loud.
did.
Can I just read a section aloud?
Yes, and
Okay.
read it like you're reading Mein Kampf again.
I don't think I did that.
I think you did. You spat out the words when I wasn't sitting
Then
here.
Let me do this. Throughout that's because I'd like to discuss something current. Throughout John F. Kennedy's presidency and beyond, reporters notoriously hid the fact that JFK was a venereal, disease-ridden sexual profligate and drug addict. The courtier press was too busy manufacturing a nonsense image of Camelot. I read this because I'd love to hear your view on Caroline Kennedy's desire
Was
to
that
become
gentle
the
enough?
Senate.
Was that
Yes, that was lovely. You could do the audiobook. Well, we don't know that much about her. I mean, it is striking.
Nobody's attacking you. I just don't appreciate the way you're talking to her.
I know.
I mean,
Let's
nobody is
have a little
attacking you. You
respect
didn't
for
have to
Barbara.
talk to her.
I wasn't
like
here,
that.
and you're describing the scene from here.
I just think, and go on.
Okay, I think we can move on from tone and get to substance, but he's flashing rap, so...
But here's the deal. Since we'll wrap as soon as it's time, but you're sort of just did like two great put downs in one sentence. I want to reiterate. Nobody was putting down or attacking you.
Look, you're claiming that I was basing it on
listened
personal
to you.
experience. I was not basing it on
I
personal
asked
experience.
The question, were
Halle
you?
Berry's
Because
Academy
you
Award
are
acceptance
not-
speech
you
went
are
on and
not-
on about how she was doing it for the blacks. That is identifying with her black father. I'm talking about what they do and say in public.
You can't take it, can you? You can dish it out, but you can't take it. We'll be right back. Anne with Anne's book. We're fine. We'll be right back.
Larry tonight, and what a great night to fill in, because joining me here in New York is Ann Coulter. You could say she's a little controversial, she's a little country, she's a little rock and roll, and she's got a new bestseller out, Guilty, Liberal Victims and Their Assault on America. We'll get into that and a lot more, but first, let's talk about our new president. Welcome to the show, Ann.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Is there anything you like about Obama?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Like what?
He was totally playing the Daily Cause kids for fools on national security. He's basically continued Bush's terrorism policies. Guantanamo is not getting shut down. We're not pulling out of Iraq.
Not yet.
In fact, he's increasing the war in Iraq. He's continuing the renditions. I think either he knew this all along, or he got the national security briefings and said, I can't let the New York Times run national security. That's too dangerous. So I had high hopes for him the first few weeks, though... The stimulus bill sort of dashed those.
So you would like him to continue torturing people? Is that what you're telling me?
We don't torture people, Joy.
We don't? That's not what I
No,
heard.
though, if they're really bad, I know.
If they're really bad, we torture them.
I was going to say they'd start showing them old issues, old views.
The View. Oh, yeah, you've been on the show. Did you feel we ganged up on you last time? So
no,
what?
it was a lot of fun. It was like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Yeah.
I'm expecting cards and letters from all of you.
Listen, you sold a lot of books that day. The View sells a lot of books. So what do you care if we ganged up on you?
I didn't say you ganged up on you. You did.
Well, you sort of acted like we did.
No, I said it was a joyful occasion.
People felt that you were pissed when you left. I'm just saying. Okay, so what do you think about this stimulus bill? Do you think that...
I think it's a disaster.
You think it's a disaster?
It's the Reward Failure Act of 2009. I mean, it's not that I like the title, and so did most Americans. Support for it went from about 80% when people only knew the title to about 37% as people would find out more and more about it. It's stimulative of big, huge government programs. It rewards failure, and who's going to be left holding the bag? The middle class of America.
Yeah, but, you know, your party has done nothing in the past 8 years to fix any of this. They ran up the deficit.
Well, it only started last fall.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I mean, the whole economic crisis started last fall, or I promise you McCain wouldn't have been our nominee. Nobody was talking about this until the fall of last year. The economy was fine.
Nobody seemed to have any foresight at all.
No, everybody knew. It was exactly like the dot-com boom.
Well, then why didn't the
because
Republicans
they were making
do
money.
something? They were in power.
Well, everybody. Why wasn't everyone doing something? People knew it was coming the same way people knew that, you know, Pets.com 10 years earlier wasn't worth more than GM and GE and IBM combined. People knew that these internet stocks weren't worth as much as people were paying for them. People knew that these subprime mortgages weren't, the housing couldn't keep going up forever. But as long as you're making money, it continues. It happens with all sorts of things.
But the Republican Party has now basically turned its back on this, except for three people: Olympia Snowe, and Susan Collins, and Arlen Specter, right? So those are the only three Republicans who say, okay, we're gonna try and do something. What have the Republicans come up with? They have no plan.
Okay, first of all, there's no clear evidence that those three, Collins, Snowe, and Specter, are Republicans, or I would demand that Michael Steele cut them out.
You're just saying that because they don't agree with you.
No. Look, I mean, when you get every Republican in the House plus 14 and then 9 Democrats voting against this bill, that's where the bipartisanship is, against the creeping. It's not creeping socialism; it's galloping socialism. It's theft. It's immoral. It's shocking, the stimulus bill. I'm not exaggerating, and the only hope is that Republicans will come zooming back in 2 years and it won't go into effect because this is a disaster. And by the way, people who think that just because their taxes aren't going up right now, okay, you know, maybe I won't benefit from the stimulus bill, but I won't be hurt. You will be hurt. You will be hurt.
Let me ask you.
Everything you've made until now will be worth half as much.
All right. Would you rather that it fail so that the Republicans can be back in power in 2010 rather than try to do something for the American people?
No, it has nothing to do with being back in power.
Answer the question.
No, I've answered.
Would you? Let's say
it has nothing to do with Republicans being in power.
What if it does really great? How do you know? You don't know that.
Because massive socialism has never worked. I mean, Argentina tried. Japan tried it. They have higher IQs than we do. You can't borrow $1 trillion. We don't have $1 trillion. You know what that means, Joy? That means you either are in hock to China, and there is definitely massive inflation because you start printing money. That means any dollar you have today will be worth 50 cents
But
in a few
who are we
years.
indebted to for the Iraq War, for example, where we spent $1 trillion also?
Look,
and Bush and his people brought the deficit up incredibly. So who are we in debt to for that?
Yeah, and the deficit's very bad, and Republicans have been the ones talking about it for years. I think it was Bob Dole who said, let them